Well, welcome to Midlife. My name's David. We're out for a drive in our Mazda CX70 PHEV, or plug-in hybrid. I'm going to give you an update because we've now hit the 20,000 kilometer mark on the car. So this is our 20,000 kilometer update. We're in the midst of winter here in Ontario, so it's a good time to give you some quick thoughts on how the car has been performing for the last 4 months. We've owned it for 4 months now. It actually is a vehicle that's a year old, though, because it was a demo when we bought it. So it actually has 20,000 kilometers, but we've only put 5,000 on the car since we purchased it. As I mentioned, it's minus 6 degrees in southern Ontario today. The last couple of days, it's been minus 15, minus 18, so it's been quite cold overnight. So it's given us a chance over actually the last month or so this winter to see what the vehicle is like to drive in the wintertime. There are lots of really good things about the vehicle that I'm going to highlight, but there are a couple of concerns. I mentioned them in my first video, and they're certainly noticeable, especially when the weather starts to get cold. But we'll give you some of the highlights about our first 4 months of ownership, and then provide you with a few areas where I think the car could be better. No vehicle is perfect, and this certainly isn't either. Now, as I mentioned when we first picked up the car, we recently actually traded up from a CX50 to get into this CX70 because we were looking for more space. We travel down to the Maritimes quite often, and when we are going on longer road trips, the CX50 simply didn't have enough space for us to go away, at least with all the different things that we take with us when we go away on a vacation for a couple of weeks. The CX70 was purchased for that primary reason. There are other reasons why we upgraded as well. Although we really enjoyed the CX50, it was the turbo version, so it was a lot of fun to drive, but it wasn't great on gas, which is one of the reasons why we picked the plug-in hybrid, because this one's very good on gas. We've been happy with the car. There are lots of really good things that I like about the vehicle, and I'll start with some of the things that will be top of my list. So as I mentioned earlier, we upgraded because of the space. And already on a couple of occasions, this vehicle really, the extra space has come in handy. So for example, at Christmas time, as we're visiting friends and family, as many people do, you tend to load your vehicle up with all of the different presents that you tend to have when you've got grandkids like we have. And then we also have 2 dogs. Now in the CX50, it was difficult for us to load the car up like we did at Christmas time and also bring the dogs. In this vehicle, we had plenty of space for everything. And also, recently we went down to Port Colborne to help with some painting, and I'll show you the pictures in a second, but we took some extra gear with us, including a 6-foot ladder, which would have never fit in the CX50, so the extra space has certainly come in handy. If you look in the back of this with the seats folded down, it has a lot more space than the compact SUV like a CX50, and in this vehicle has almost as much space as the minivan that we had a few years ago. So we've definitely appreciated that. The dogs also seem to enjoy the extra space in the back as well, so they're more comfortable in the back of this car for sure. As a matter of fact, in the old car, the compact SUV, they would get car sick after about a half an hour. At least one of our puppies would. Touch wood, we haven't had that problem in this vehicle, and he's been on many road trips with us, so the dogs seem to like the extra space in the back as well. The other thing that we've been really impressed with the vehicle, it's a very comfortable vehicle, whether you're in the front row or whether you're in the middle row. There's plenty of room for adults in this car. We've gone out with friends a number of times, and although we do have 2 Mazdas, we also have a Mazda 3. If we're traveling with friends, we always take this vehicle because there's lots of room in the second, in the passenger row behind us. The seats actually slide and recline, so it's easy to get comfortable if you're traveling for any distance. And as far as passenger comfort is concerned, this car is actually excellent. I've also been very impressed with the interior. Mazdas in general tend to be, considering they're, not necessarily a luxury brand, they tend to cross over and kind of tip into or cross into that luxury space. The interior fit and finish of this vehicle is excellent. I love the Napa leather trim throughout. I think all of the various features that you get on the interior of this car really do distinguish it and differentiate it from other cars in the segment. I mean, this is obviously an opinion, but I think that compared to offerings from Hyundai, Volkswagen, you know, even your North American manufacturers, even Toyota, Nissan, I think Honda, I think the interior of this car is a step above, and I really do appreciate how well this car is finished on the inside. The thing probably that has really impressed me the most about this car is the mileage. We actually have a Mazda 3 that has the same 2.5 liter engine in it that this car has, and it's averaging, especially in the wintertime, about 7.5 liters per 100 kilometers, so that's mid-30s as far as miles per gallon is concerned. Our CX70 is averaging 6.7 liters in the wintertime. It was getting even better than that when we first got it, when the weather was warmer. But even with all of the driving that we've been doing, and you know, for example, last weekend we were down in Port Colborne, even with all of the driving, it's averaging 6.7, and I kind of checked this morning, 6.7 liters per 100 kilometers in Canada is 42 miles per gallon, because that's imperial gallons. Our gallon is a little bit bigger in Canada. So any way you look at it, a vehicle of this size, 42 miles per gallon or 6.7 liters per 100 kilometers is really, really amazing. So you definitely benefit from the hybrid nature of this car, and even doing highway mileage, a lot of highway mileage where you're really just using the gas-powered engine, it still seems to manage to find a way to assist with the electric motor and maintains that mileage. So the gas mileage has been excellent in this car. I also like all of the features. I think, for example, even things like the heads-up display in this car is much better than the previous versions of Mazdas that we've owned and other vehicles in its class. I'll give you a quick look at what the heads-up display actually looks like. Let me just... I do like the heads-up display. I think it's a nice upgrade even to the CX50, and the rest of the technology suite on this car has been upgraded even from the 2024 CX50 that we've just come out of. The adaptive cruise control is a little bit better. The lane keep assist and lane watch is certainly better. And even the backup camera, the 360 camera is better on this car. So there's been some nice upgrades to the technology suite. Now there are some things that I think do need some work. I think the biggest one that really stands out, again, I mentioned earlier that the car is actually, as a hybrid, is maintaining really good fuel economy, but we do like to drive in EV mode as much as possible. Now, when I first picked the car up, we were getting 42 kilometers in range in EV mode, which was fine. It's kind of what was advertised. As the weather has gotten cooler, that quickly deteriorates. It really depends on the temperature. Now, unfortunately, we're parking the car outdoors. You know, you would think, and you know, because I do know some EVs have some sort of warming technology to keep the battery warm while it's charging, but this doesn't appear to. If it does, you certainly don't notice it. Yesterday, for example, when the weather got down to minus 14, I think we only were able to fully charge the battery and get 14 kilometers of range. As a matter of fact, we weren't able to actually drive the car in EV mode yesterday. It simply hasn't charged enough. So when it's cold, it really does impact the ability for this vehicle to operate in EV mode. And once you get below zero, it's very difficult for this vehicle to maintain highway speeds in EV mode. It'll drop out of EV mode. Now, we still use the EV mode as long as it's not too cold. We'll put it in regen. Last weekend, for example, on a trip to Port Colborne, we only got 24 kilometers to start, but we put it in regen, and by the time we got down to Port Colborne, it had fully regenerated, so we actually got another 20 kilometers on our way back. And then while we were driving, we actually regenerated a little bit more, so we managed to get in total about 60 kilometers of EV driving on a 300 kilometer drive. So that certainly assisted with the fuel economy, but I think for me, I'd like to get more range in general, and certainly more range in EV mode in the wintertime. I've been a little bit disappointed in that respect as far as range is concerned. Plug-in hybrid, I kind of expected to experience more of what it's like to drive an electric vehicle. And this car is dropping back into gas mode more often than I expected it to. The other thing that I've noticed about the vehicle, now it's an all-wheel drive vehicle, so it's actually really good in the snow. We're running Yokohama snow tires on the car, so I don't have any real issues in getting up and going. You know, the car drives just fine, but you really have to be careful, you know, trying to slow this car down. You're carrying a lot of weight. It weighs 5,200 pounds, and again, I came out of a CX50 where I had all kinds of confidence to drive that car in the snow. And I'm not carrying the kind of speed, probably good, but not carrying the kind of speed I would normally carry when driving in the wintertime. For example, I'm more comfortable driving at any kind of speed in our Mazda 3, which is only front wheel drive, than I am in this CX70. Not because it doesn't get going, because it does. It has no problem, doesn't get stuck, has lots of traction. The problem is it's carrying 5,200 pounds of weight, and you really notice that weight when it comes to stopping. We had that example yesterday, for example. My wife and I went out after we had a big snowfall here in southern Ontario. We had about 25 centimeters of snow, and we were coming down a hill in Woodstock, and we weren't the only vehicle experiencing issues slowing down coming down the hill. But you certainly notice the weight of this car when you're trying to slow it down in the snow, and it's because of obviously the battery pack that's on it. This car is significantly heavier than any other vehicle we've owned in the past, and I think from a driving perspective, you just have to be aware of its weight when you're driving in the wintertime. I think it needs probably a little bit more attention. Now, I'm not sure whether the Yokohama tires would make any difference or not. We had the Yokohamas on our Kia minivan, and they were fine on that car, but you certainly notice the extra stopping distance that's required when you put those same tires on this vehicle here. I think I might try a different set of winter tires next year on this car, because I've run Michelin X-Ice in the past, and they seem to be a little bit better in slippy conditions. But at 5,200 pounds, you definitely need to pay attention to the weight in this car for sure. Now, one of the other positive things about the car is this rear wheel bias. Although it's all-wheel drive, its primary drive is the rear wheels in this car, which makes it, you know, different in the way that it handles than the CX50 did, certainly. For the size of the vehicle, it does have a sporty feel to it. It's not as sporty as the CX50, and I wouldn't call it a sporty vehicle, but it definitely handles better because of the fact that it's got a rear wheel bias. And when you put it into sport mode, it's got 323 horsepower, 369 pound-feet of torque. So it definitely gets up and goes. I got to be careful because there's a little bit of snow on the roads here, but it certainly has plenty of horsepower to get up and go. Now, I think that if you're more concerned about handling, I think the non-plug-in hybrid version, so the inline six version of this car, if you're looking for a sportier large SUV, when I test drove that car, I thought that was a little sportier than this car. But if you're concerned about economy, this is definitely the one to go for. Now, another area of this car where I think it could use a little bit of improvement, it's got a 2.5 liter naturally aspirated engine. It's got 191 horsepower if you don't put it into sport mode. You know, for normal everyday driving, it's fine. It does feel a little bit underpowered though compared to the CX50 we came out of. It had a turbo on it, so that one always felt like it had enough power to do whatever you wanted to. This one you have to put it into sport mode to get that kind of same sense. So for regular everyday driving, whether you're in normal mode or whether you're in EV mode, it does feel like it could use a little bit more power. And I think I mentioned in my first video that if you combine this with the inline six and plug-in hybrid, that would be definitely the best of both worlds. You know, I think that for me would be the ideal version of it. But it's not lost on me how good the gas mileage is on this vehicle, that's for sure. All right, so we're at Pinehurst Lake. We're going to do a bit of cross-country skiing. So a couple of quick highlights again, positives about the vehicle. I really do appreciate the extra space that we've got in the car now. It really has the room that we need in order to take everything that we would normally take down to the Maritimes, or even if we need to take things down to visit our kids. I do love the amount of space this vehicle has for seating. Front and rear rows are great, and I think the interior of this car is amazing. I just love the Napa leather, and just the finish of this car is upscale compared to most of its competitors in the segment. I also like the heads-up display and the safety suite on the car. I think they're upgrades to what was on my CX50 or the other Mazdas that we've owned in the past. I think the rear-wheel bias nature of the car is great, and I do appreciate how much get up and go this car's got in sport mode. So I think it actually is a fun vehicle to drive considering the size. Now, I wouldn't call it sporty, and I do think that when you're not in sport mode, the naturally aspirated 2.5 could use a little bit more horsepower. I think that the inline six with the plug-in hybrid would be a nice combination if they were able to put that together. Although I'm impressed with the range of this vehicle and the gas mileage that we're getting, 6.7 liters per 100 kilometers or 42 miles per gallon is amazing for a hybrid and a vehicle that weighs 5,200 pounds. I do wish we could get a little bit more range out of the EV mode, and quite frankly, I am disappointed in how the EV operates in colder weather. I don't think they've got that quite sorted out yet. That, for me, is the biggest area that they need to work on. On cold mornings like we get in Southern Ontario in the wintertime, when you're plugging the car in overnight, it didn't generate enough power to even drive the car in EV mode yesterday. So they need to find some way of extending the EV range. I think that for me would be a real positive. But other than that, I think for the first 4 months of owning this car, overall we've been happy. I would definitely recommend it. If you're concerned about gas mileage, I'd recommend the plug-in hybrid version of the car. If you're concerned about, having a sports SUV, for example, if you were shopping BMWs and other, sports SUVs, give this car a look, but go and have a look at the inline six, especially the high output version of it, because I think that might be more in line with, if you're looking for something of a sporty nature. Anyway, thanks for watching. If you'd like to learn more about the CX70, please leave me a comment, and we'll see you in the next video.